Well, here we are again for the second course of 4 this November in 2019, and we're using sponge rollers today and brushes to do a landscape. I've already brought some examples in, as you can see, but these aren't landscape. These are just to show what the sponge rollers can do and the effects we can get from various skies. These are done almost entirely with the sponge rollers to do all the background, and then are touched up with the brush at the end. We're only going to need a few brushes today, and I'll put a limited palette out as well. This is just to show the students what can be done with the sponge rollers before we take it now into a further landscape. The landscape we're doing today is this one. One on the Petite Cruise in France. So we're going to be building up all of this background here, these lighter tones and mid-tones first of all. So we're working from the mid-tones through to the darks, and then from the mid-tones through to the lights. Using Specialist Craft Acrylics ×6 ×4, and one of them there. A reasonably priced acrylic. And all we're going to use today is processed yellow, white, magenta, cadmium red, Prussian blue, black, cobalt blue and turquoise, and that will be enough for us to make this entire painting, I'm sure. Now I've set out a plastic plate each for them to mix on and one to share between two. We should have adequate paint there. If not, then we've got more over there with a teaspoon. I've got a bowl of water just to dampen the sponges because we're going to be using the sponge rollers. Now normally I have a full palette like this. Today I'm not going to need to have all that out. You can see I've already got my paints ready for the next painting back at home with the big sponge roller and more cafe scenes. But all I'm going to use today is exactly the same as then, the plate here. I've taken 3 brushes out of my set, 2 filberts and a round. I've got a number 4 round there, a number 8 filbert and a number 4 filbert. So that should be enough for this entire painting in this case, plus of course these sponge rollers here. These are 1-inch sponge rollers. You can see that one's been used a bit, this is a new one. They'll usually last, well, 3 or 4 of my big paintings at least before they start to become a bit softer. They're a bit stiffer when they're new. So if we want sharper edges, we need a newer one. Sharpened all of these brushes today, but I've got them there in case, and of course some paper towel there to wipe brushes on. I've already prepared my canvas and the students with quarters and halves. Go halfway approximately on the canvas and then quarters, and that means we can subdivide afterwards, and I'm going to explain all of that to the students as we go along. As I said, I've already marked all of their photographs with corresponding quarters and halves, so what we've got to do is grid them off. So as you see here, I've already gridded up, halved up and quartered their canvases and the photographs. As I say, the paints we're using today are heavy body acrylics, paints from Specialist Crafts, a very good value for the money. Jar of water for each person, but I've given 1 palette between 2 in this case of paints because I think that's adequate for them to on a smaller work like this. A plate each to actually mix on. Over there we have a whole box of sponges because we're going to need those for the texturing of the leaves later on, and some spare brushes from flats, filberts and rounds in case students haven't got them, although I do supply sets of 9 already when I come to workshops. So I'm ready for when the students now appear, can work in front of them here and do the drawing step by step. And this time I'm going to go detail by detail for you. In most of the films recently I've just been sharing the process of the painting with you just for the fun of seeing how it evolves. This time I want to show every little step as I take it through with the students, because we're looking at offering some of these courses I'm doing here to the SAA, the Society of All Artists, possibly the water and pastel one, and possibly this with sponge rollers as well. For next winter. I shan't be able to do it next summer as they've invited me because I'll be in France, but I could do next winter a couple of classes with them then. So this is a bit of a guinea pig one, but just to have these students who are all abilities here, some of these are a little bit more advanced, some of them are just beginning, just see how they get on today with this, shall we? And I'll take it through step by step with you. I tend to find that when you're drawing something out like this, it always seems to work out within thirds and quarters somehow, even if we subdivide it. So if we take that for instance, go to 2/3 look and you've got a third mark there, we can always find little marks within. Let's just start on the drawing, make it nice and easy. So this already starts on that quarter mark there. So I'm going to make a little mark here at that angle, just like that, look, for that branch there, just so I know where it is. Okay? We'll start where the quarter marks already are, so we can find our way. If I come over to here, then this tree here starts here, and it finishes about halfway here. So if I make a very light line, just start, when I'm drawing this big one, so I use a pencil like a paintbrush when I'm doing my drawing like this. I hold my pencil out at an end like that and just do loose loose marks. So that's going from halfway there to halfway here. That's this one here. Just so I get the basic composition. It's angles and positions. Now, one of the things I tend to describe when I'm doing this is most of us, when we were children, had these comic books where we join the dots to make a face. It's a bit like that. We're going to make the dots and then join the dots together at the right angles. So we've got almost a straight line there, from there to there. It's a very slight curve. If I go halfway again, so you know that's where that one comes there. Halfway again here, look, to what about just above, about a third here. And we've got another one there, that's this one. Just make the mark there, it's so simple. We're going to be able to see the pencil marks through our sponge roller. So we're not going to lose all of our drawing. It's going to be, we're going to be able to see it at first. So don't worry, you're not going to do all this for nothing. I'll do this in front of the camera, but if you're not sure on an angle, just put your pencil against it like that, look, and then you can test it, you see.
Right, okay.
Now another way of doing this is if you have what we call a frame, like a camera obscura, if you have a frame of card cut out, and you mark the frame of card, so like a border, yeah, a mount, and you mark the frame for looking through a scene to draw, you can actually put an elastic band across your card, your frame, and you can move that elastic band to get the angles. So you can see the angles easier. It's a little tip for you. Yeah? So we've got those two marks. Now we've got one, look, just to the left of centre here. You don't need to use rulers, I wouldn't think, on this, but if you want to, with a bit of help from a ruler, it's all right by me, whatever works for you. Now this is where it starts to get a little bit more to think more. That's where that tree starts, this one. It comes right down to here at a slight angle, so if I take my pencil and just gauge that angle, look, I'm going to have that sort of an angle. But where does it finish? So I've got to come across, it finishes about here. I come across from there. A trick to do with that is if I put my hand against here, I can bring it across straight. And it's actually, it's finishing just about halfway. So I've put a very light line across here. This is just what we call a construction line, just so I know where I am. But I'll get out of your way if you need me to anytime. So a very light line from halfway across, and that light line is coming to that curve there. So if I make that curve just there, look, and it comes, that's the halfway line there. It goes just down below that curve, stops there and up. And that's that tree there. Just to the left of that here is another one that comes down there. And look how easy that is to start making. Once we measure one thing to another. So it's like the jigsaw method of painting, the right colours and the right shapes next to another. Here you've got the right shapes and the right angles next to each other. And already we've got a couple of the main salient points in our composition. We've already got that. We just carry on from there. So when as soon as you're caught up with that, we'll move on. Are you ready to go on? Okay, next part. Let's have a look down here. So if I come halfway down here, that's just here, then there's a little bit of water each side. Now let's get this angle right. There's the angle. My pencil across like that. And that comes down from 1/3 up here. So 1/3, 1, 2, 3, 1/3 down to there. And that's my vanishing point for that water. Are you managing over there? Give me a shout if you get stuck at all any time. Give me a shout. Couldn't help you.
Can you just tell me again about vanishing points, because I do get
Right,
lost.
the vanishing point, last week we discussed the fact that in reality it is the curvature of the Earth. It is the height of our eye level as to where the Earth curves around the distance. It isn't the mountain tops, it isn't the water, whatever, it is our eye level. So in that case, the vanishing point's coming up to here. Our eye level should be about here, wouldn't it? That's the vanishing, that's the horizon, but our vanishing point is where everything goes to that horizon, like this, in this case. Yeah. Goes smaller and smaller away from us. Last week we talked about aerial perspective and linear perspective. This is, at the moment we're doing the linear perspective. Aerial perspective is colour, cool, things going cooler, and linear is what we're doing now, things going smaller as they go away. That's then the little vanishing point, that's that area there. Now, where does this come, look? It actually, that line comes down here, all the way down there, and comes off what? A third again? These thirds again, look, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3 here. So up into thirds here. I'll make it a light line from there to there. And that's the line of my river coming down there. And it's as quick and simple as that. So, we break it into thirds, from that third here, up to that point there. Okay? Now, we've come down to there, we've got this little curve coming in, so again if we come look halfway here, that's our thirds. If I come halfway there, it's funny how things just work into these thirds and quarters. Halfway is that look. If I just bring a little line in there, it's almost straight, and then from up here it curves in, so it comes, there's a triangle. Where does it finish here? Just at that point there, it comes up to here. There's like joining the dots with those figure spaces we talked about. If I join these 1, 2, 3 dots, I make a triangle. If I curve the end of that triangle, there's that piece of leaf coming in there. And it's as simple as that. Keep the shape simple. As long as you get it in the right places. There we are, look. That's that little piece there. So it was up to this quarter point, it was halfway down, and it came out to this quarter point here. Got that? Okay, on we go then. Where does this branch come? If we divide it into thirds again, look, here's our quarter here. If we divide this quarter into thirds, 1, 2, 3. So this quarter into thirds, 1, 2, 3. Here is where this mark comes here, like that. Get the angle right, there's the angle. Where does it finish? Let's have a look down here. We're going to find where it finishes. It finishes just above 1, 2, this is into quarters now, so I'm dividing this one into quarters. Quarters, 1, 2, 3, 4. A construction line across, very likely. That is where that tree root comes here, on there. And we start to get, you see I'm making marks now a little bit more about what the things are. When we start painting, even with the sponge roller, the important thing is, with a brush or a sponge roller, try and keep your marks about the object that you are painting. You'll see, I'm going to do a demo across here in a minute about that with the sponge roller, because I don't expect you just to go and use a sponge roller. I'm going to show you how it works first.
Oh, I see.
Whatever you've done above is going to happen below. In other words, reflections are directly below what we've done. So you know that this tree here is going to have to be, if that's where a tree is, look, that tree has to reflect there and there, doesn't it? It has to, because it's directly below the one above. Simple as that. So a couple of marks there for those trees. You can see them there, look. There's the trees, got it here, and that stone work finishes there. This one the same, that tree has to reflect down here. Whatever is here has to come here. Now you're doing just great, that's fine. And it's a very complicated drawing, but you're managing because you're just taking it bit by bit. Don't panic, just get the right shapes one to another. Almost got enough now, almost. That's, yeah. We don't worry about the rocks and things too much, we can put a few of these in. If you want to find that rock look, or where they are, again, it's on the quarter. How wide is it? It's almost a third of this whole section. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. So if I divide that into thirds, that's where my rock starts. And that's where it finishes, just to this side of that. There's my big rock at the bottom of the canvas. And we know where it is, we've got that position. We've got that position, we can go to this rock here and this rock here just above it. We can put them in approximate places. So the major things, the major shapes, this rock here in the middle, for instance, it starts here. It's again 1/3 in, 1, 2, 3 here, and it's 1/3 in this side. How things seem to work into quarters and thirds. And it comes up at an angle like that and finishes down there. That's that big rock just there. And these are the shapes we're just going to find in a minute. You make them as dark as you like, so make them quite dark. There we are. That's all I need to paint. You've got that much, you've got enough to paint. We can put the other details in afterwards, so make them nice and black. Yeah, we're doing just fine. That's good, as long as we get these shapes. That's taken us 30 minutes to do the drawing. Well, that's not bad going. Right, next I want to show you, when you've got the drawing done in a few minutes, how to use the sponge roller. First thing I'm going to do is come across to this bowl of water, which I have for you as well at great expense. Lincolnshire water, and just soak my sponge to start off with, and get it as dry as you can. Take a piece of paper towel or something to spare, and when you've done that, just dry the roller so it's damp. You don't want a wet roller or the paint to squeeze everywhere. So just dampen the roller. Now how to actually use the roller. I'd like you just to gather around me, come off your chairs for a moment and just things a bit. I was going to make a second piece for the board, but I'd like to actually show you a bit closer if we can. Roller's ready. I'm just using a little bit of old paper there to work onto. I want to show you how we can use the roller to make a glazing effect, so we get these lovely atmospheric effects in the background. Unlike watercolour, we can put light over dark and dark over light with acrylics, can't we? So I'm going to start off with the roller just making some dark, and so we can go light over it, just to get you this idea of how to press hard or light with the roller. I'm going to take, deliberately, some black. Now, when we're doing this, we won't have to wash the roller bar 3 or 4 times in the whole of the lesson. I'm starting with dark, that's not what you're going to do. So I'm going to have to wash the roller. But we're going to start with medium tones and work towards our darks, and then we've got to our darks, we're going to wash the roller and come back and go from the mediums to the lights. This is just so I'll give you an example. Plenty of paint there, get the right amount of water, get the mixture right, don't have it too thin, it depends on the glazing you want. Now this is the trick, take the roller, don't just roll that bit, roll the roller through your brush. So the entire roller is covered in paint and you've used all the paint in your brush. Makes sense, doesn't it? Easy as that. Now we can use not just the flat of the roller, but we can use the edge of the roller. So we can paint quite thin lines. We can curve with the roller, we can make textures with the roller, like leaves. Make sure your marks are about what you're painting. So if, for instance, we're looking at this area here, I would take those trees and I would use the edge of the roller, a little bit harder. Now the harder I push, the darker it goes. The lighter, the more we get a glazed effect, which is lovely. You can see now we can actually get these lovely effects with the roller already. You cannot get this with a brush. Only sponges and things. This is the beauty of this particular method. So I can work this bit of dark along here in a minute. I can work up these backgrounds. I can do little marks for the trees coming in here. This big tree over here, for instance, I could come up quite solid there at the bottom, look. Then I can go a bit lighter. I can come up with these branches with the edge. You see the effect? Yeah? And you've got it almost instantly. That's what we're going to do halfway through. But I just wanted to show you these light areas in a minute, just so you could see how we can work light over dark. Forget that as soon as you wash your roller, come back, dry it again. Because what will happen otherwise, you'll have a squidge of water coming out and stuff everywhere, depending on the effects you want. So we can make a glazed effect by going lighter with the roller or using thinner paint as well. So you can have a solid area of glazing by having thinner paint, or you can have a more varied textural area by using drier paint. I haven't done that, I've got black on my brush, didn't wash that as well. Right, let's take a little bit of this background colour here. I'm going to take a couple of colours just to give you an idea, because we'll be doing this. We've got enough colours in our palette over here to do this whole painting quite easily. Got these lovely colours here. Let's take some of this sort of warmish colour here. So I'll take a little bit of my... Now remember about magenta, this one is, this cadmium red there, this is magenta, which is a cooler red. Now last week we discussed the fact that every single colour has a hue. Every single colour, yellow has a warm and a cool end. This is a mid-yellow. If we looked in my palette here, you'll be able to see a cool yellow there, yes, and this is a warm yellow. This is a cool blue. And that's a warm blue, because it's towards the red. If it's towards a red, browner, it is warm. If it's towards the blue, ice, it is cooler. Okay, and all the blues. So that's a cool blue, and that's a warm blue. So we want it's warmish. A little bit of filler into this. Dipping my drink again, yes. And I want to cool it a fraction. I'm going to use a little bit of that. When I do this mixing for in a minute, I'll mix these as I go along. We're already getting towards that colour in the background there, almost there. So we can sort of try and see these colours in a colour. Now, I don't want tons of it at the minute because I just want a little bit on my roller. I would now normally roll right through that. This is a very thin mix because it's still very wet. But I can now start going over the black. And look at the lovely effects we get. Isn't it like that? Yeah? And we can put one over another as we go along. So we're going to build this up like this in a moment. I'm going to cover all of this white paper now. And I'm going to go lighter and higher. So I'm just rinsing away from the roller. Nothing. Well, I push harder like this and I can get... Now, I don't have to wash my brush again. I can go straight to making a green into this. Just tint it with a little bit of the blue and the yellow. and I get a greeny colour. There we go. If we do need to use a green, I'll put some more out for you. We should get away with this. It's surprising what we can do. That one, and again I can just gradually come over and put a bit more stronger colour. It's still too wet. Make that strong, much stronger green. I'm going to make a thicker paint this time because I want to go over the top while it's still wet. So we can go quite green, look. All of these colours are there. You can begin to see them now, can't you? Through the brush again and just filling it, feeling the sunlight coming through here. Look, you see the effects coming already. And we're going to do the whole background. We're going to do this whole background with the sponge. And when we've got all of the white canvas gone, we're going to put the whites, these light colours back in at the end. So we're going to go the mid-tones, all of these darker mid-tones and the darks. We're going to come back and put the light tones in, the sunlight. Then get rid of the sponge, wash it, and we use brushes to paint the final leaves and branches and the textures. Yeah? And we've also got our sea sponges to do the same for the leaves as well. So, and also, wow! And as an addition, if you really want, I can show you how we can use a painting knife today to get some of the textures on the rocks. Because we can come down to these rocks with a brush, we can come down with a sponge, or we can take the knife and actually either paint on in a block, or we can just dab them to get a texture. For instance, if I just take that paint on the end of my brush here, on the end of my thingy, look, we can just dab that to get the effect of the rocks. That isn't the right colour, but I'm just giving you an idea. Or we can be more detailed and draw them out on top. So we've got all of these different techniques to try today. I'm just giving you an advance warning. That's how we're going to do it. Right? But the next thing then is make sure your drawings are finished, and I'm going to go and wash this palette and my roller again, and we'll make our first background colours, okay? Don't keep washing your brush out. It thins the paint out, especially watercolour, because every time you do that with the watercolour and you go back to it, you put more water in, don't you? And it gets thinner and thinner. So the same with the oils or the same with acrylics. You've got the colour on your brush, wherever it is, use it all over. It also gives you a balanced painting that way. If you just finish one part of a painting, it could be wrong compared to all the rest when you get the rest done. If we keep the whole painting going one part to another in this jigsaw method, the whole thing will be united. It's the same style, the same loose way, or it will stand out differently, won't it? So that's what we're going to do here. So we're going to make this colour here, this warm grey. They're all various greys. Greys are normally made brown, blue and white, or you the grey. Brown, blue and white. Depending on the brown, depending on the blue. Blacks, we hardly use black. I'll put some black in the palette because we're going to have a bit of fun with black at the very end of this. Moving the water is very gestural. Big strokes, high strokes, whatever, you know. But this is still water. So we're going to be doing quite a lot of vertical marks. I want you to consider looking into the depth of the water first, not the surface. So we're going to make a lot of vertical marks here. This is a lot of loose strokes with the roller. My roller here is going to be going very much crisscross, 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 feeling those shapes. Yeah? But down here, it's going to be a lot more vertical strokes with only a few horizontals. Horizontals at the end. That's just to start off with. I'm moving with that. You've got to get the roller started, so maybe some more. And into that white, a little touch of my magenta, just to give it some warmth. And then I want a retouch of the, this is giving me a lovely pinky colour. So I'm ending up with that sort of pink grey there. Put that on the camera. So that's white, magenta, which is that cooler red. Yeah. And a wee touch of, you've got cobalt blue there.
Which is that one?
On your palette you have there, that's Prussian blue.
Which one are you pointing to? That one?
You want to
The darkest one.
Yep. That dark blue is a Prussian blue, that's your deepest. That's cobalt blue. That's turquoise. That's white. This is primary yellow. Primary yellow, it's like a light cadmium. That's your magenta, which is that lovely cool red. This is cadmium red, and that obviously is black.
So we want some magenta.
Just a touch of the white.
That's cadmium red.
It's got a bit of orange in it. Yeah, it's because it's next to this one. You see, it's so much warmer because that's a cool red, that's magenta.
Yeah.
The cadmium looks so much lighter, doesn't it? Yeah. And this is where we're having this cool colours. So that's how we can make things look luminous or fluorescent. So there we go. Then we've used white. We've used a little bit of the magenta. We've used a little bit of the cobalt. Now I want to go a tad green, so I'm going to put a touch of yellow, just a wee touch of yellow into there. That gives me a lovely mid-grade. You can go darker than that, that gives me a lovely sort of pinky yellow green grey. That's a nice one. We're trying to do this light rock colour. Now you probably have to mix quite a bit more, but remember, roll the roller through your brush, and once you've done that, you'll see if you've got enough paint, because we're going to put it into this centre part here. Right down through there, and I'm going to just be very basic at first, just quite strong and pleb. Straight up through there, right to the. Don't worry about the white bits, we're going to go right over those white bits. Right down over the rocks, don't worry about the dark bits, we're going to put those back in. Wherever the light bits are, wherever the rocks are. You can't really do too much, and some of that's reflecting into the water, so I'm going to start to make some vertical marks in the water with this. Okay, that's probably just about dry by now. Watch your rollers as well with this. Don't leave rollers lying around, because they'll soon dry out and then wet straight away. You'll find we can keep mixing these colours without having to wash the roller for quite a while yet. Doing fine today. You're keeping up with us today, look. Individual paintings. Move the brush again, and let's see if we can start to get these textures. Right, back to here again. Get them on. And gently with the roller, I'm just going to find these little bits of dark. Now I'm painting the darks in between the branches here. See these areas here? I'm painting all these little bits of dark in, like here for instance. That's quite dark in there, and I'm going to just bring the roller gently using the edge to get these trees coming up. There's that tree, look, edge of my roller, distant tree, edge of my roller. Try and get the corner of the roller to work for you. Get these darker colours, texturing coming over and into there. Just letting the other glow through. It's very abstract, it's not trying to copy things exactly. If it's not dark enough, make a bit more. I'm going to make some more now and go darker. Quickly, how quickly we can cover canvas. So you can see how I can do these big paintings so fast now. And by using it lighter, we get a lighter texture. And by using it more heavily, I get a heavier texture, darks coming in. I'm going to gradually build up these grey darks. I can still just see my drawing through. Obviously the darker the colour, the harder it is to see the drawing through. And don't forget those vertical marks if you're painting over the water bit here, just to keep the feeling of water going. A lot more vertical marks in. I'm going to make now, using the yellow and the turquoise, a green, and just add a touch of cobalt to that to bring it down a bit. I can smudge with my sponge as well as use it crisscross. Want to lose, I can smudge into the white bits, look like that. Smudge, 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 and then use it. Soft green foliage. But I've lost all the canvas there. Don't be afraid to put a bit of water into your paint. You need to get it flowing better on the roller. There's little bits of green down here. When it's on your roller, when it's on your brush, use it. There's some green down here, reflecting. And it's a bit thick as it is, so I need to put a little bit of water with it. Now, different paint manufacturers have different qualities of paint. This one is a very good value for money acrylic. Those pots are just under £5 a piece, which is amazing, because they're 18 quid for that size. But I don't recommend their darks quite as much. Their black isn't as black as an expensive black. And using the edge of the roller, and look where things are now. Ready? And I will begin. Use the edge of the roller to carefully find and just feel these branches. Don't start painting them in where they aren't. If they're slightly broken, that's what you've got to do. And look at the lovely effect we can get there. As that tree comes up a bit more heavily here, you can rub whenever you want. If you want to rub like that, you can just rub it down these little bits of leaf here. You can just feel these branches coming down. You see how that paint is the perfect mix now for that look. I can just make a slightly broken line, bring these right through into here. just delicately, where I want it darker, I'll push harder, where I want it lighter, I'll press gently. Use your finger or a brush if you want to just smudge it or blend it and you can't quite get what you want. Don't worry about that. With my yellow and a little touch of the turquoise. Okay. Sunshine, yes, it's changing. Let's have a look at a minute. Now in between branches there, look, a little touch here. Right down texturally, so I'm using the roller very lightly to get the texture of these lovely green leaves behind. You see that lovely texture there now? Yeah. It will suddenly come to life now. So clean, pure, yellow first, then a little bit of turquoise, and we'll get this beautiful effect of the, and you use the edge of the roller in between the trees. This is where it cuts into those trees. So I can cut down my trees here now, cutting down my trees, a bit rainforest job, and little touches where I need them. Don't worry if you lose things a bit, you're going to go over your branches a bit, we can come back later. It's really nice, yeah. Yeah, you can just keep watching your drawing and make the marks about the rock. That's nice, that's the way. Let's use the roller, try and explore with it. Okay, I'll start mixing my last light colour because I know you can catch up with me now. White, start with the white and add a little touch of yep, when we get back from these, they're going to really look effective.
There it goes. Okay, thank you. So do I come down and...
Yeah, please.
Now we're going to go on to use the smaller brushes. We're going to use the number 4 round to start painting in background branches and twigs and foreground. In the background we're going to use the Prussian blue again, a little bit of magenta to make it dark. In the foreground twigs, to bring them forward, we'll use the black. Okay, tip of the day. When you've mixed your paint on the round brush, the consistency has to be just right. Like the sponges, if your paint is too thick, you cannot paint a thin line. So make sure that that paint is not too thin that it's going to be transparent, but is thin enough to come off the end of the brush evenly. Now, if I twist the brush like that in a spiral, I'll just do it around here. If I twist the brush in a spiral like that, I'll get quite a nice point. But equally, if I want an even finer point, push the brush flat and you can make a blade, and you can see then that the blade will be fat one way and thin the other. So I can paint quite a thin line that way or a thick line that way. You can rest on your canvas with the brush and your hand like this, one little finger down there, and you can then use the blade of the brush to paint these fine lines to go, remember, from thin to thick. And if they're a broken line, if it's a broken line, do make it broken on. Push these trees back into the distance. And when I do the dark ones with the black, they'll become much closer. The Japanese way of working with brushes, they will be very symbolic. Not only is their cherry blossom a different colour and different shapes and different things, it's not just about the time of year, it's also very symbolic about, you know, relationships and love and life. And we aren't bothered about that, but the beauty is that they tend to say the maximum with a minimum. And we've got shapes here that can paint flowers, leaves, whatever. Let's just see what we can do. If I just take that brush and flatten it, I can immediately get that shape for leaves. I can drag it out in two ways to make two leaves. I can then come into that and paint little bits like that. So we've got, and then we can paint a point at the end of leaves as well. We can do two and paint little points at ends of leaves. All of these marks we can make with the brushes. And if we start to look at these, we're going to see these here. So I'm starting to now to paint in, look, some of these, that's this one coming in here. And if I just take that one, we're looking at these, and that's that colour there, you see, isn't it? And that turquoise is, you think turquoise, it's green, leaves are green, trees are brown, sky is blue, water, no. There's all these lovely colours going on in here. You see this lovely deep warmer blue going on in here. If I take a little bit of that yellow into that blue, and then we start to get the green coming in, and look at that variety we're getting, and it's all there. And I'm deliberately not going to mix it up fully. I'm going to let that stay a little bit mixed and look at the effects we can get of stone letting those two colours, three colours go together as well. That's much warmer than this one, so we're going to have that already going on. But when you start to mix this and this, and a little bit of white, at the very end for this, pow! It's going to really shine out. Even down here in these roots, we've got to get the roots yet down here. So I'm going to use the same mixture of the Prussian down here for the roots. Right, so I've done about enough now with my Prussian blue and magenta to get the darks, the mid darks that I want. I'm now going to go to a bit of black. Right, can you see the difference now in that black and these darks? It gives you it brings that foreground out. I use the black on the deeper shadows in the front.
On rocks, you mean?
Yeah, under the rocks, even on some of the littlest of twig here.
You're still just using the turquoise, aren't you?
Yes, I was. I'm not now. I've changed now to the cobalt. I've changed now to cobalt and a little bit of yellow to start bringing the stronger blues. I think, as I describe when people are painting trees, I try to describe it as being like an atomic explosion of the acorn hitting the ground, exploding upward into the trunk, outward into the branches, and coming down like huge mushrooms as the leaves form and then drop off again.
Okay.
And if you think about that here, you can see this sort of lovely explosion of little marks that are coming up and out. Smaller leaves in the background. Now remember with sponge painting, if you haven't done this before, don't just go like that, because you'll have a pattern. Turn the sponge each time, twist slightly, okay? Remember that you can drag with the sponge as well as use the tip of it, and you want to find a sponge that is the right texturing for the sort of bigger sponge for bigger leaves, smaller sponge for smaller leaves. So very carefully when we come to do this, we want to get these leaves just coming through it. You see how finely I can just touch it, just to get, don't overdo it. No, just get the feeling of the leaves and the texture in the background here, don't it becomes like snow otherwise, or confetti. Earlier on I talked about the sky being almost white. There are very slight tints in that sky. So I'm going to take my small filbert and some pure white for a minute. And I just want to show you what happens if I start putting that into the sky there. Look how white that is compared to, yeah? But it's too much. So I'm going to take it down a fraction again with the yellow here. So this is the cadmium orange or red with a touch of white, not much. You can catch up, Grace. You've got hours to go yet. There's plenty of time. Don't worry.
I can't remember what I did.
Now, talking about cool warms, we said that the magenta was a cool warm. So I'm going to take some white and a little touch of magenta to make a pink. But it's going to be a very cool pink because it's just the white and the magenta. If I wanted a fraction warmer, I should add a bit of yellow to it. Let's just see what we get with that. So this is the white and magenta on these rocks here. Yes, I can go lighter yet, and a little touch of yellow onto that. Tiniest touch. Let's see what we get with that. Now there's my little bit of light look. And that's the cool pink, the cool red with a bit of warm into it. Right, this is a warmer cool then. I want to deliberately now, to show you what happens when we put a cool next to it, I'm going to take some of the turquoise with white. And we haven't done that yet. We've used the pure turquoise. We haven't used a very cool. So I'm going to take some turquoise, which is our coolest cobalt. But look how that little bit of blue there reflects against those warms in the background. The turquoise and the white I want just to be coming into the sky a bit. Up here. That would be a relief, should be better. That would be a relief. But I'll catch up with you, don't worry, I'll keep an eye on you all. I'm just going to go back in with a bit of pure cobalt now and just pick out some of the warmer blues against the... And I reckon for me I'm about done on that, so I'm going to sign that next. But there we are then, I think that's successful enough. Now just carry on around the class, and they're all doing really well. We've got some lovely and such individual pieces, because everybody's doing slightly different textures or seeing things slightly differently on the photograph. They're all lovely, and in just a moment I'll show you those as well. So this is where we've got to so far. We'll have a closer look at these. They aren't quite finished yet. We've got another hour to go on this, so we've got plenty of time. But just look at the diversity of effects on the same photograph. And the light on them is lovely.
That one's lovely, don't
You see in mine I've got the very light pink as well there. That's the magenta and white you haven't used yet. Magenta and white, we need to put together to get this really light pink here.
Okay.
And send that back again.
Right. And the one in
The one on the far right is the one, again, it's too much bright pink.
yeah.
Come back in with some light green into it, perhaps some even lighter pink, and just take it back a bit. You see how much more subtle, there's less pink in mine. All the deep greens and textures amongst that pink. So it's not just a block of pink, it's textures of greens catching.